And welcome to round 6 of this Scandinavian Open Legacy event. We apologize for the few technical difficulties we had during the last rounds, but hopefully you didn't notice as much of it as we did. So, well, for this round we have some quite spicy decks to show you. We just gotten word that it's 2 decks that we haven't seen before.
Yep.
2 archetypes that we haven't seen before today. So
there is some love in this kind of decks.
Oh yes. This both these decks really show why Legacy is such an amazing format, because they need much love to play them. You need to love the format and the sort of wackiness that this format has to offer sometimes.
Yeah, there are axes sometimes that decks operate on, and in Legacy it just seems that the number of different axes is never end.
Yeah, exactly. And
so Nickfit versus Painter.
Yeah, Nickfit versus Painter, and it's Alexander Hulten versus Valdas Kalvis. And both of these decks are really amazing to watch when they go off, so to say, in their respective area.
Yeah, and in addition, even if they have a core that is always the same, both of these decks, there could be very many different possibilities of how the rest of the deck is built.
Oh yes, very much so. It's a lot of personal choices that goes into these decks that depend on your play style and preferences, and both how you prefer to play the game and a bit. It's usually a bit of personality showing in the deck lists.
Indeed.
Yeah.
In Nickfit, for example, you can include a 4-drop that is good, but perhaps on the just under the line of playability in Legacy in general.
Yeah.
But you love it so much, so you include it anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
And basically, for those who don't know the archetypes, Nickfit tries to resolve an early veteran explorer.
Yeah.
And then get rid of it in some way. Either by sacrificing it to Cabal Therapy, or blocking, or as any other sacrifice outlet. With this, all these extra lands and mana, they try to deploy big threats.
Oh yeah, and we see Alexander is coming out of the gate with the turn 1 veteran explorer, which is really good for his deck. It's exactly what he wants to do.
The deck is capable of operating without this start, but this is how you want all games to start in.
Oh yeah, you also have the disruption package in Thoughtseize, and you have the ram package in Deathrite Shamans if you need to. So there's a lot of 1 mana plays that you can make. But the deck tries to go a bit bigger than many other decks, and Alexander's take is it shows his playstyle and his personality in his deck list. We can say that for sure.
Yeah, we can already see a tropical island here from Alexander, as well as a plateau from Valdas, and this shows that of course, some colors that they have included which are not always present.
Yeah, and Valdas searching for that. Searching with the Enlightened Tutor on turn 1 shows why white is so good in that type of deck.
Yes, he can either find one of his combo pieces, which are Grindstone and Painter's Servant, milling the whole library of your opponent, or if you're under pressure, you can find a defensive piece like a Snaring Bridge or other things.
Exactly, and there's a lot of powerful enchantments and artifacts, mainly artifacts that you want to play in a Painter deck to really enable cards like Goblin Welder and Enlightened Tutor to be toolbox and effective cards in general. Oh, and Alexander here with the Pernicious Deed.
But wow,
And
it
gets
gets pyroblasted.
Wow.
So one mana counterspell.
And Vindicate, as earlier
and
mentioned.
Vindicate when you have the Painter Servant in play.
Yeah. So if Valdas here has the Grindstone, I believe it should be pretty much game. Yeah.
There it is, and he has
Do we see the
the mana to
activation?
activate it and a quick
So-
scoop.
That Veteran Explorer backfiring a bit.
Yeah.
Sacrificing it to get lands, but also gain the mana for Valdas that he needed in order to Pyroblast the Pernicious Deed. Which turns out to be a blue card.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
No, I didn't either.
It's
Surprising.
surprising that when you play your black-green spells that they turn out to be blue, in fact.
And the theory we have behind Veteran Explorer in Legacy is that usually, or at least a lot of people, doesn't play basics. So it's even if it's a symmetrical effect on the card, it will be one-sided. In this case, I think he got at least one mountain out of it.
Yeah, he got 2 mountains.
He got 2 mountains, yeah.
And he had more because he played another mountain on his turn.
Yeah. Which enabled him then to play Grindstone and activate it on the same turn, which is pretty expensive.
Oh yes, that's 4 mana. Even though Grindstone just costs a single mana.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's expensive, and it was enabled a bit in thanks to the Veteran Explorer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Valdas coming out of the games quickly there, gates quickly with the combo kill in Painter Grindstone. If you're unfamiliar with how the combo works, Painter Servant turns all cards into a color, in this case blue. So all cards become blue. And Grindstone, it mills cards if they are the same color, it keeps milling cards.
Yeah.
So it starts milling 2 cards from your opponent's library. They happen to be the same color thanks to Painter Servant.
Yeah.
And you just keep doing that and repeating it until the deck is out of cards.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a really efficient combo, and you just need to find the pieces to get it going, and you can pretty much one-shot your opponent's library.
Yeah, yeah, and a card that is very effective and fun in this deck is the previously mentioned Goblin Welder.
Yep.
Because it can both serve as a value card with Senses Divining top, like you activate the top and sacrifice it in response, and then you draw cards, and you can gain mana with it by putting in more expensive artifacts into play.
Yeah.
In addition, you protect yourself from counter magic in a way if you have a resolved Goblin Welder, because you just weld it up into play again if it gets countered.
Yeah, Welder is really an effective card in this deck because it offers up so many angles of attack that you can do. So it's really cool to see both of these decks trying to do their respective thing. And Alexander with his Pernicious Deed, had it resolved, he would be perfectly protected from any combo that Valdas could make on that turn.
Yeah. An interesting thing in this matchup, which is this particular matchup is not very common, since they are both less occurring decks.
Yeah.
Though still powerful, is that the strategy of Painter is often to try to lock down your opponent's mana with Blood Moon or Magus of the Moon, and of the same principle that Nickfit uses, that in Legacy there aren't that many basic lands.
Yeah.
But since Nickfit runs a lot of basic lands, this strategy will be
greatly reduced.
Yeah, it
so
will. It will.
Yeah, and I agree. The decks are profiting from the same weaknesses in the other decks
Yeah.
in the format. And when facing off against each other, it proves to be quite hilarious
Yeah,
at
yeah, yeah.
times. So I expect perhaps they're coming out some explorers, they're coming out some blood moons, shaving down on that part of the disruption packages for both of these decks.
I
And
wouldn't.
perhaps bringing in other sideboard cards instead.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if that happened.
And there are certainly some good sideboard options for both of these decks to play with. I know, there's a Pithing Needle, for example, that the Nickfid player could bring in just to shut down the Grindstone, so it's safe from the combo.
Mm.
We saw the Pernicious Deeds in the main deck, which shuts down a lot. And there's Reclamation Sage and other stuff from the Nickfit player that he can use to great effect to disrupt the Painter combo.
Very true. I wouldn't say that the Painter player has an abundance of options to bring in. There are definitely some good cards here. There are, but there are not many obvious ones, except maybe this one.
Oh, you think you want to bring in that?
I'm not sure. I'm not experienced enough how much Nickfit operates with the graveyard, but yeah.
Alright, yeah. We see the turn 1 death right, so some graveyard interaction obviously exists.
The nice thing, the bad thing with Enlightened Tutor is of course that there is card disadvantage, but the nice thing is that it allows you to have such a great sideboard toolbox of stuff.
And White offers up a lot of good sideboard options for this format.
Yeah, very true.
So, yeah, I believe the Painter might not have sideboarded that much. He would probably want to cut down on the Blood Moons, but given that his sideboard is more suited to deal with other decks in the format, and his deck is suited for that as well, he might opt to just try to go for the combo even more.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Nickfit is not a deck that's that well suited to deal with other combo decks.
No, that's true. Perhaps the Painter deck's plan of attack here is just very effective in its standard form without the counting the sideboard.
Yeah, just trying to do its own combo as well as possible, and just assuming that the Nickfit player won't be able to deal with it in a good way.
Yeah.
But we see the Thoughtseize here from Nickfit, so it's a really good disruption piece. And that's a lot of lands.
A lot of lands.
From the Painter player. And there's a Grindstone and Pyroblast, but Pyroblast is not doing that much against a mostly green-black deck in Nickfit.
No.
Not unless you have the Painter Servant to go with it.
I thought I saw a Jace there. Yeah, there it is. So
yeah, right.
So I think he will be inclined to take that either way.
Yeah.
But I believe that is a one-off Jace. That's very typical of this deck to include one-offs of very powerful cards.
It's actually not a one-off.
Oh, it isn't?
No. It's.
Oh, he has many Planeswalkers.
He has a lot of Planeswalkers in his deck, and Jace is one of the better ones, but it's not a one-off.
It's not a one-off?
Multiple of them.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. Oh, and that could be a good card for the Painter player. He's looking at a Magus of the Moon on top of his library, and the Nickfit player has only 2 dual lands right now.
Alright.
I do not think he has the mana to play it this turn though, so he might have drawn a Spirit Guide there. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, I suppose Alexander only had the jewels as they were, not fetch lands, or
I believe he has cracked one fetch land so far, but he opted to go for the dual land rather than the basic land. Perhaps under the assumption that the painter player would bring out a few of the disruption pieces for his mana.
yeah.
So
All those nice counter mind tricks.
Yeah, indeed. So they're mind gaming the mind games for a bit, perhaps.
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 Or perhaps they're just, I don't know, plays on without thinking. Who knows?
Yeah, that
I don't
could be
believe
the
it.
case. No, there are definitely thoughts behind all of these actions that they are taking.
Yeah.
We'll see the Nickfit player with his Planeswalker package if he gets something going here. He greens Unseen It's for 1. Perhaps getting a Veteran Explorer or another Deathrite.
Yeah.
It seems like he still has the Veteran Explorers in his deck.
Alright.
I would think that you would be inclined to remove those.
Maybe.
Post-board.
Yeah, I would so too, actually. But maybe he has like one just because he has screen stun, possibly.
Sure, that's a great possibility. And when he doesn't have the land, as it seems he doesn't for this turn, it could be really good to just flashback Cabal Therapy once more, and removing more pieces from your opponent's hand. While developing your mana, because you really need all that mana in order to operate in a deck like Nickfit.
Yeah, very true. So with the basics, Alexander now doesn't fear the Blood Moon effects as much should they come down. However, if it would, the Jace will still sit in his hand. But
yeah, Jace costing double blue is slightly awkward, but Blood Moon is greatly reduced in power and shuts down a potential Enlightened Tutor for Valdas as well.
oh, that's true. That's important.
It could be. If you can find all the pieces without Enlightened Tutor, that's well enough. So you don't really need it in that case, but I believe he has an Enlightened Tutor in hand. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, and he's floating the combo on top of his library right now.
Ah.
So he's able to maybe just go off on the next turn, if given the opportunity. But Alexander has... he tries to Abrupt Decay as Sensei's Divining Top. Isn't that quite awkward?
I mean, it could be a good play, but in this case, I think it's a little bit too ambitious when he has only a Deathrite Shaman in play.
Yeah.
I would put higher value in that if you already have a threatening board.
Yeah. It might be because he wants to disrupt pieces from Valdas' hand instead. If he has discard effects or something like that.
Yeah.
But...
Ah.
Oh, right.
Now we see his line.
Yeah. Putting that Senses Divining Top on top of his library and then putting it to the bottom with Jace. That's a good line of play.
Yep.
It's a bit risky here because, well, if Valdas has the combo, he's really weak to it right now. And that's a City of Traitors, I believe. And that's a Grindstone. And that's
a painter, and that's game.
If this resolves, this should be enough to just finish the game. Yeah,
Yep.
and that's a quick win for the painter player. Really just